Is that a real need for a quarterback, somebody who can throw consistently well? Is that something that you would love to have from your quarterbacks, or is it just more about fun? Is that who you are as a person, Ty? I don't know.
Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein, welcome back. This is a college football podcast known as the Solid Verbal. This is part 3.
Yes.
Of our Big 12 preview series. We did the ACC, go back and listen to that. We did the group of 5, go back and listen to that. Still to come is the Big 10, still to come is the SEC and Notre Dame and UConn, of course.
Limestone University, deep preview. I looked it up, by the way, mid-episode 2 of the Big 12, because I think it's UCF who has a receiver transferring in from Limestone University. Ty, throw out a state. What state is Limestone University home in? It's not barely English. Is it located within?
Pennsylvania.
South Carolina. Gaffney, South Carolina.
Nevertheless.
It's never a bad guess to guess PA.
Never. All the greats are from PA.
Yes.
No. Nevertheless, this is another preview episode. Thank you for hanging here with us. Hit follow, hit subscribe so that you don't miss any of the episodes of verballers.com, verballers.com. That's where you can go if you want to get these episodes a day early without the ads, get access to a bunch of other perks that we offer to our community. It's also the best way you can support what we do. If none of that stuff is of interest to you, but you still like the show, 5-star review on your favorite podcasting platform. Leave a review wherever it lets you.
Would love that.
All that stuff is very, very helpful. Dan, we've got 8 teams before us today, those being Utah, TCU, Kansas, Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, Oklahoma State, and of course, Colorado Buffaloes, Dan.
Yes, we do. And if there's nothing else, we don't know if these teams are going to be incredible or terrible, but there's something about the Big 12 that has something for everyone.
Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, miracles.
I can make a case for any of these teams. Continue.
True love and miracles. Why don't we stick with that?
Yeah.
Let's start with Utah, Dan.
Okay.
The Utah Utes, formerly of the Pac-12. Are you used to the fact yet that they're in the Big 12?
I'm not used to any of this. I see Utah in a preview magazine. I see Utah spoken about on some sort of TV show or video on YouTube or something. And I'm like, oh man, how's Oregon going to handle this Utah defense? This is real tough. We got a first-year starting quarterback and Dante Moore to think about. I'm like, oh, no, I guess they're not going to Rice Eccles anymore, huh? Every time I see any of these teams, I think about it within the context of what does this mean for different West Coast matchups or Oregon games, and I'm thrown. I'm old and thrown.
The only one that I can sort of tolerate is Colorado, because they were previously.
They were.
In this conference.
But there were a lot of interesting, well, okay, I shouldn't say there were a lot of interesting Pac-12 games involving Colorado. There were a lot of huge performances against Colorado from West Coast teams over the years. So I got used to the Buffaloes out west.
I think that's fair. So look, go back, listen to part 2 where we covered the other 8 teams in the Big 12. Go back and listen to part 1 where we talked through what we call the tiers of the kingdom and tried to group them accordingly.
Hey, real quick, it'd be great if you could consider subscribing to the YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out.
Utah was one of those teams that for me was in the top tier, which had 6 teams. For you, it was on the cusp. It was 1 tier down. So I think at least relative to the field and where you and I ranked Utah, pretty close. The points of separation with our tiers varied a little bit, but Utah was a 5-7 team a year ago. Their over-under this year is 7.5. For my money, one of the more interesting teams in the conference and probably the country.
Sure.
If I'm being real with you, because this is a program coming off of its first losing season in over a decade. We had wondered for a while if Kyle Whittingham might just pack it in, if the game had passed him by. You know, we've seen this happen with coaches that have been around for a while, but alas, he is back. And I think provided everybody can stay healthy, and that's a big if, provided there is not a big lingering health issue that clouds the season, I really like this roster. I really like what he's got here, Dan. I think I'm probably a little bit higher on Utah than you are, but again, we both kind of have them in the same range. So what stuck out to you when you're going through and looking at the Utes?
That if they're similar this year, that they might be altitude Iowa who can't finish. I mean, you're talking about the quarterback injuries, a longtime successful defensive coordinator, a terrific ability to develop linemen and defensive players, but an inability to figure things out on offense and yet still win a ton. They are the Big 12's Iowa. And I don't know who that is insulting to, because Iowa actually did take a step forward on offense last year.
They did.
But yeah, that's now becoming the annual question with Utah. And we've had Cam Rising injuries, and we've had, this Utah program win conference championships, but at the same time, or compete for conference championships previously. At the same time, we have a similar question this year of like, Utah should have a pretty incredible defense this year. They return enough and bring in enough, and their starting pieces at all three levels are interesting or have star power potential to the point where they should win a bunch of games. Utah, these last couple years, though, especially last year, they've also been a study in winning as a skill that Utah didn't necessarily have, largely because of injury, but also they were in those games. They were losing game 17-13 or 21-20 or something like that they just didn't have the juice to finish, or the players to finish, or the creativity to finish, or didn't get the breaks to finish, that they played in so many close games, but weren't, the defense gave them a chance in those close games, but weren't able to take that one extra step. That the big question now is this a formula that can win you 9 games in 2025?
Well, first things first on the defense. I'm with you. I like the defense too.
Yeah.
I don't think they're quite as deep, though. And I think that's especially true along the defensive line, where Utah has historically been really solid.
Mm-hmm.
And I only bring this up because they've had so many injury issues. And I don't know the first thing about how you solve a problem like that. But I wish there were a little bit more depth, especially up front on defense, because if that goes down, I think that causes an issue. I think generally speaking, though, you're right. I like where the defense is at. I'm actually really high on this offense. Really high on this offense. And I understand where you're coming from because, frankly, it's been a minute since the Utah or did I say Utah or Iowa? You've got me in my own head
you
now.
said Utah, but you're in your own head. Continue.
It's been a minute since the Utah offense was something to be excited about. Obviously, they were handcuffed by the Cam Rising thing for the last couple of years.
Yes.
The best of whom was really good when he could stay healthy. He just never was.
Yeah.
So this offseason, what they did, Andy Ludwig retired. They did some shopping down in New Mexico, Dan. They got themselves a new offensive coordinator in Jason Beck, a new quarterback in Devon Dampier. Kyle Whittingham is on record saying that he's going to give Jason Beck complete autonomy to run the offense. So if we are to believe that, this is a system that looks a lot like a spread, has some RPO stuff mixed in there. Jason Beck likes to run the ball. That's been a staple, as we know, of good Utah offenses. So shouldn't feel that different, but I think you take that in tandem with what should be a pretty good offensive line, one of the better units in the country. All of that type of thing, especially when you've got the line up front, seems to be a bit of a catalyst for maybe getting this off the ground in a hurry or quicker than expected. So I just think it makes so much more possible when you've got that line play and you're trying to change some stuff elsewhere. There's still a lot that's unproven. The other thing that I like about this setup is, though it is a new Utah quarterback, Devon Dampier ran this system with Jason Beck last year, and he had a lot of success.
Correct.
He threw for 2,700 yards. He ran for over 1,100, 31 total touchdowns. Go back and listen to the episode we did a couple weeks back with our friend Tim Murray from VSiN, who was talking this guy up as a Heisman dark horse. I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far.
Or how you might view a dark horse in a Heisman race. Yeah. But
sure.
He liked him. Yeah.
He is more of the Tommy Castellanos cloth.
Okay.
In that he's 5'10", 5'11", but dude's an athlete, and he's a lot of fun to watch. Passing is inconsistent,
But is that a real need for a quarterback, somebody who can throw consistently well? Is that something that you would love to have from your quarterbacks, or is it just more about fun? Is that who you are as a person, Ty? I don't know. We've only been doing this show for 17 years.
I would prefer the ratio be better than 12-12.
Yeah, I was
which
like,
is what it was last year.
Mistake prone in a much smaller conference in the Mountain West. Okay.
I like that they got Wayshawn Parker from Wazoo.
Same.
Also, Tobias Merriweather is now on his third team. Started with Notre Dame, went to Cal. Now he's at Utah. Maybe he'll pop at Utah. I don't.
Yep.
Who knows?
Maybe this receiver will work out at Utah is how a lot of different sentences have started and not really finished in a great way. Continue.
I just think there's reason for optimism.
Okay.
There's reason for optimism. I like the fact that they're trying something new with a coordinator who seems very much on the rise.
Definitely.
And I like Devon Dampier from what I've seen. So I'm willing to remain optimistic until proven otherwise. The burning question for me is how they're going to hold up against the schedule, because it's a really tough slate. They get most of the top teams in the conference. The three big ones against Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State are spread out. They're all at home, which is good. Generally, I feel really good about Utah. And as I said on, I guess, our part one, aggressively over on the 7.5 for the Utes. I'm feeling pretty good about what I'm seeing here.
I hope so. I really do hope so, because if you look at this conference, how many teams do something as well as Utah seems like they'll play defense or has recently played defense?
Not many.
Not many.
No.
If any. I mean, maybe ASU moving the ball. Last year, Utah finished with the number 19 defense in the country per points per drive, minus garbage time. ASU was 12th, TCU 17th offensively. But this was not a conference. Basically, after maybe the BYU defense last year, that offered much in the way of like a nationally impressive defense.
No.
So, yeah, Utah being sort of alone on that island in the conference, I think is a positive that they are able to do something that not many teams, it seems, have the ceiling to do. So I like Utah here. What'd you say, 7.5?
7.5 is what I got.
Schedule-wise, they're opening what? In Pasadena at UCLA. They have Texas Tech on here. They have ASU, but ASU is at home and Texas Tech is at home.
All those big games are at home, which I like.
The road splits. It's a little trickier at the end at Baylor, at Kansas, and at Kansas is a week after the Kansas State game. It's a tough end to the season, it seems. I don't know. I think 7-5, 8-4. The number is perfect, so I'm being extremely boring here. I don't feel crazy confident in the over in this moment. Yes, I'm going to say because of coaching, because of consistency behind the defense, I'm going to say they can go 8-4, so I'll take the over barely.
You're pretty high on TCU.
I am pretty high.
You might be a little bit higher than me.
Until you look at the schedule, it's easy to be high on TCU.
Yeah.
You know, your face and your personality make up for that extra 7 to 10 pounds you can probably get rid of.
The flaw finder is out here for TCU with the schedule. It is brutal. I've got them at 6-6 this season because of the schedule. Because of the schedule. Listen to this. At North Carolina to open up the season.
Okay.
They've got SMU at home, ASU on the road, Kansas State on the road, Baylor at home, coming off a bye, by the way.
Yeah.
They do go to West Virginia. I'm not crazy about West Virginia.
So that's Baylor coming off of a bye, to be clear. So
Baylor
it's
coming off a bye.
TCU on the road at Kansas State the week before Baylor, which is a feather in your cap of being down on TCU. Continue.
That's right. They've got Iowa State on here. They're at BYU, at Houston, close out the year at home against Cincinnati. So it's just really difficult across the board. There is definitely that stretch in the middle of the season as you get to the latter part of September where they're going SMU, Arizona State. Then after that, a game at home against Colorado. They should win that game against Colorado, but at Kansas State, back home against Baylor. It's just like in pairs the way this schedule is set up. You've got 2 in a row on a couple different fronts, and that's going to be really difficult to navigate for a team that, frankly, did not run the ball at all last year.
Right.
And defense is always kind of a question.
So here is the obvious counterpoint. TCU is and should have one of the better passing offenses in the conference, if not in the country. Given Josh Hoover's experience and Sonny Dykes' background, this should be a good to very good passing team. We can agree.
Yeah.
So when you go through this schedule, SMU, defensive questions?
Yes.
Yes. ASU, you had questions about their pass rush, yes?
Yes.
Okay, that's a question. We both agree that ASU should be good. Questions about the back end of Kansas State's defense?
Yeah.
Yes. Baylor's pass defense. Questions?
They didn't play pass defense last year.
So questions. Fair. Iowa State's defense beat up. I think their secondary should be ahead of the front this year, so maybe...
secondary is a problem.
Oh, secondary is a problem for Iowa State. Okay,
yeah.
There's another one. BYU, I think, is replacing both corners, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so BYU, pass defense questions. Houston loses a ton on defense, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and Cincinnati, I think we have defensive questions as well. So, while I'm with you that the number of teams I just had to list is pretty long. That's a long list of teams. But it's not a list of teams that's immediately bringing to the table obvious defensive competence, especially against the pass.
I think that's fair.
So maybe TCU is the one who knocks. That's all.
Perhaps. And I'm guilty of this too. As we go through all these teams,
yeah,
there have been more than a few where I tend to judge how they're going to perform based on their schedule.
I agree.
As opposed to kind of looking more, I guess, inward at what the team actually has and what I think they're going to be good at. The offense is going to be really good. I love Josh Hoover. I like Josh Hoover from the moment he started taking snaps. Pete Thamel from ESPN published a report a couple weeks ago now. Tennessee was interested in Josh Hoover after Nico decided he wanted to go in the portal and Josh Hoover is staying put. Threw for 3,900 yards last year. This year, depended on who steps up out wide. 4 of their 5 top guys are gone. I like Eric McAllister. Here is Eric McAllister, Dan. You mentioned him a couple episodes ago. I like him as their big play guy. Right. But I think they're going to need someone else to step up, someone else to make the jump and go next level. Jordan Dwyer was one of the top FCS receivers last year at Idaho. They bring him down, so that could be interesting to watch. They've got a good line. They do need to find a way to run the ball better. That was a real problem a year ago, but the offense is fine. I've been fine against the offense is going to score points against almost everybody. It's just who are the defensive playmakers, man? They got better on defense. They lost some of the bigger guns this time around, but they did improve.
Right.
They did go to the portal to try and address it, which Lord only knows how that's going to shake out. I think at a minimum, as a starting point, not only do they need to run the ball, they also have to get better against the run.
Yeah.
Because they were 12th in the conference last year in run defense, 90th nationally in yards allowed before contact. So this is painting, I think, a pretty straightforward argument both for and against TCU, to your point. The offense is there. Yes, the defense got better, but it was still lacking in some key aspects. And against a schedule like this, 9-4 team a year ago, I think it's possible they go 6-6. And at the same time, we come out of this saying TCU is actually a pretty good team.
Agree. Yeah, they won 6 of 7 to finish out the season last year. You're right about the questions on defense. I also like that first year last year was the first year with Avalos. Yes? Yeah, obviously.
Yes. Yep.
They stopped big plays, which if that's your first line of defense, it was just okay, the pass rush isn't always there or the run defense isn't always there, but you limit big plays. You have an offense that can score points. You have an experienced coach who's probably not going to go back to a national championship game, but the coordinators are both experienced and competent. The quarterback has experience. I think you and I are on the same page of liking TCU and not loving this schedule, but I don't know. I don't hate their starting point, and the more I talk about TCU out loud, the more I think I'm kind of talking myself into them.
I kind of feel like I'm doing that too. What did I say? 6-6.
See, this happens every year with you and the Frogs, though.
I know it does. I've had such a love-hate thing with TCU since the beginning of this podcast.
Right.
I'll upgrade. I'll say 7-5. But I'm not going to go any higher. I just think the schedule, and I have defense questions. I can't go higher.
What's their number? Their win total number?
TCU's win total is
6.5, 5.5?
6.5.
6.5. I would go over. I have the feeling that this is an 8-4 team. I think they're seasoned enough.
That would be a good year.
I think 8-4 is where
that'd be a really good year.
Fall with TCU. Yeah.
Another team with the 6.5 win total is Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
They were 5-7 a year ago. The vibes are strong here, if only because they're reopening the stadium. They call it the Booth. It's David Booth Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
They've been renovating it for, I guess, a couple seasons now. Week 0 at home against Fresno State, reopening it. It's going to be a big freaking deal. A big freaking deal.
That's, by the way, in like 39 days.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy how close it is. At time of recording.
At time of recording, let's be clear. Yeah.
It'll be even a little bit closer to week 0. This is a program, I just have to say it, they were a doormat before Lance Leipold got there.
For sure.
And this was one of the things that he wanted them to invest in. This was, and I think they've talked about this as being the missing puzzle piece or the last puzzle piece. This stadium thing is a very, very big deal for this program, and it'll be cool to see them open it up, I'm sure, with a lot of emotion in week 0. I think these are the things that matter when you're recruiting, when you're trying to build a fan base or build trust with a fan base. Showing that you're out there investing in this thing signals intent. It signals that they're, I guess, committed on some level to trying to improve it over the course of time. So that's only part of why the vibes are high. I am thoroughly entertained by Kansas this year.
Maybe.
I am, for 3 reasons.
Okay. Hit me.
1, Jalen Daniels.
Of course.
Apparently still eligible. Apparently for now healthy.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Needs to stay healthy, which is not always a given. Needs to be more consistent when he is. But assuming those 2 things, he's a playmaker. And this is a wide open conference. It's a team that runs a fun playbook. Speaking of which, number 2, co-offensive coordinators this year, Matt Lubick, Jim Zabrowski.
Okay.
Lubick is a guy that, we talked about him on an episode, but he helped build the playbook a couple years ago with Andy Kotelnicki. And Zabrowski is cut from kind of the same cloth. So tell me you're not going to want to watch if they get back to running more of that oop-de-oop offense. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. So I think that gives you a reason to be entertained. And then the other thing is they've got one of the better schedules in the league. In conference, they get all the teams that I'm down on. They get West Virginia and UCF and Oklahoma State and Arizona. If they win those 4 games and beat both Fresno and Wagner, they need just one more along the way to hit the over. So I like the over here. They've also got the border war against Mizzou, which is back on the schedule for the first time since 2011. Not a perfect team. They lose Devin Neal. There are some receiver transfers, but that's a big question. The offensive line's a bit of a question, too. And they've got plenty of areas of need and transition on the defensive side of the ball. But
isn't the entire offense a question other than Jalen Daniels?
Maybe.
And it's Bryce Foster. They have a good center, from A&M, yeah.
But I feel pretty good about Kansas going over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a starting point thing. That quarterback, defensive front is experienced and seems good, right?
Yeah.
Defensive line specifically. It's who are they stopping? It's who is shining at skill positions on offense, which is a pretty big question. How are you going to stop people, and who is going to be responsible for moving the ball without Devin Neal and
those are
replacing
basically
receivers?
The 2 functions of a football team, right?
Well, especially a team like Kansas, right? The best of Kansas is a team that has, in the past few years under Lance Leipold, developed quarterbacks, developed pass catchers, certainly developed running backs. And so they have earned the benefit of the doubt that they can identify and develop there. You got to protect Jalen Daniels, especially given his injury history and athleticism and propensity to try and extend plays. And if the offense gets the benefit of the doubt that they're going to find and develop people, then it should be a good offense, which means that the defense has to be complementary because they might find themselves on the field quickly between scores or big plays, whatever. And so that to me is the even bigger question: is who is Kansas stopping? Who are they not stopping? And who are the players that are able to make those plays? How many players do they have at all 3 levels to make those plays?
I think it's a team with enough veteran leadership that they'll benefit from this schedule. And the fact that it's a wide open conference.
Agree.
Quite literally anything can happen. So I'm entertained by Kansas. I'm not expecting a run into that top tier. But if we've come to know anything about Kansas in this era anyway, they can sneak up and get you. And they got Iowa State last year. They just find ways to kind of get in these games, and when Jalen Daniels is healthy, they're a different team altogether.
So you're telling me that somehow Kansas finds a way.
I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
Finds a way.
I knew you were going to find a way to use that
You
sound.
literally said finds a way.
I knew you were going to find a way to use that sound.
And then I found a way to find a way.
You found the way to find the way. Okay.
Yeah. Continue.
Cincinnati
Okay.
Bearcats, also 6.5, Dan. Where are you at with Cincy and Scott Satterfield?
I'm just sort of in neutral. I don't know. Like, what is it that is spiking your excitement, Ty? What is it about the roster, the schedule, the coaching staff, the vibes, the momentum or lack thereof that has you feeling decently good about where Cincinnati is in 2025?
Okay.
I struggle to find it. Maybe you are a better bloodhound here.
I think it's fair to look at this version of Cincinnati, which has a lot back on defense,
Yeah.
and ask the same question. Basically wonder, why is this year going to be any different?
It was.
I think that's totally fair.
These were just kind of two average units last year.
I think that's a totally fair question. You can add players, but if you're not getting better in close games,
Sure.
sometimes that points to a culture thing, a discipline thing. And for me, that's really the underlying question with Cincinnati. I don't have an answer to that. There are aspects of this team that I do like. I actually found that I like Cincinnati a little bit more than I expected. So we talked about Brendan Sorsby in part one. I really like him. He's a decent quarterback. Sort of petered off down the stretch, but that was more of a Cincinnati thing as opposed to a one-guy thing.
5 straight losses, missed a bowl. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was not a good end to the season by any stretch. But, there are holes. They lose 4 offensive linemen, 6 receivers, a 1,200-yard back. But I think, in totality, the roster is still fine. And the fact that Brendan Sorsby is back, Evan Pryor is back, Deontay Corleone, one of the great names along the defensive line, is back. I think there is enough to build around and enough to work with that this team will be fine. I also think we are on record, both of us, being pretty lukewarm about Scott Satterfield.
Sure.
Year one was a disaster. I'm just not sure it was entirely his fault, because they jumped up to a power conference. They lost a lot from the previous season.
After recently making the college football playoff, though.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Year one was horrible. Year two, there was a lot back last year. Schedule set up really well. And then the dagger was, as you said, they start 5-2, they lose their last 5. And the issue again comes back to, I think, discipline and those moments where they lose their focus and they shoot themselves in the foot. So for me, you ask, what am I into with Cincinnati? I think the roster is actually fine. And I like the quarterback, and I like some of the key pieces that they have on this thing. Where I don't like Cincinnati is I don't know if they can fix that other stuff. Because that's not always a roster thing. That tends to be more of, how are you establishing accountability, the boring stuff that, frankly, is not really worth talking about on previews like this, where people care about rosters and schemes and things like that.
Right.
So I'm mixed. I do like the players. I just don't know how they fix that part of the team. They've got 7 home games, which helps.
That's good.
And one of the 5 road games, quote unquote, road games, is a neutral sider week 1 against Nebraska and Kansas City.
Yeah, at Arrowhead, right?
At Arrowhead,
Yes.
yeah. I think they're going to run a little bit more because the running back room looks to me like a relative strength. The receiver room is going to be a work in progress, so they're going to be running. I think the defense, you look at that, they improved last season. I think they continue on that path. Still got to figure out a pass rush, which is a recurring theme here. Their pass rush has been on hiatus for a couple seasons running now. They got to get better at that. So I'd be surprised personally with this roster, with this schedule, if Cincinnati didn't get to at least 6 wins. To me, they look like 7-5, 8-4.
So sort of under the radar, like not winning big, exciting games, but winning games against, the bottom or the middle of the Big 12, doing all right, maybe outside of the Nebraska game in the non-conference, and you open your eyes and they're 7-5, 6-6.
Again, the issue is not the record,
Right.
which was underwhelming. The issue is how they got to that record.
Right.
It's not even a player thing. It's just how they got to that record. There were so many of those moments that were very frustrating. I have to imagine were incredibly frustrating as a fan to watch.
I agree.
They have to improve upon that ASAP. That is job number one for Scott Satterfield. There is palpable frustration within this fan base towards Satterfield and the job he's doing. So they got to shore that up. If you do nothing else, at least cut down on the dumb mistakes and the stupid bonehead moments that get you into trouble. And I think this would be a better team for it, given the fact that the roster is still okay. It's all right.
So if they're all right, because of an all right roster, blurbs Ty Hildenbrandt of the Solid Verbal, the massive popularity that the Solid Verbal has.
I think the most popular of the two hosts here.
Easily.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's what Cincinnati has in front of them if they are competent, okay? They have what looks to be winnable games against Bowling Green, Northwestern State, UCF, Oklahoma State, Arizona, okay? By my count, that's 5 games that we can just say look reasonably winnable if Cincinnati is definitely competent. And then they have Kansas on the road. We'll see what that Kansas, the back half of that defense and who steps up if there's an offensive line to be heard from. We'll see what Utah looks like on offense. Baylor's still going to have defensive questions, and that's games at home. BYU could be a mess on offense if quarterback doesn't work out. That's a BYU team that you have to downgrade what their ceiling looks like. They could be a very, very boring 7-5 team when all is said and done
tracks
with that schedule. And the
I
questions
totally
involved.
think that tracks.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm higher on him than I expected. I guess the bigger question, the more existential question for Satterfield, what is the fan base willing to accept? Or how does the fan base view success this season?
Right.
Because if success is like 8-4, I don't think they're getting 8-4. If success is making a bowl, showing some improvement, cutting down on some of those mistakes that I talked about, then that's, I think, more attainable. But this is a proud fan base that's used to doing well. As he said, made the college football playoff. They're going to need at some point to see some results. Otherwise, they're going to get more impatient.
Totally. Of course.
Which is true, I guess, for everybody. But
so it's a place a lot of coaches have won, at which they have won. Yeah.
You mentioned BYU. BYU's in a really interesting spot now, given circumstances.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do tend to trust
That's a pizza
in...
dough alarm, excuse me. Continue.
I do tend to trust in Kalani Sitake. I like Kalani Sitake.
Yeah.
Burning question is, who's playing quarterback, Dan? Who's playing quarterback now? Because this whole thing with Jake Retzlaff and his departure due to the honor code, due to the civil lawsuit, it came very late in the game.
Yeah.
Kalani Sitake's definitely proven that he can manage situations like this, but this is a big one. And it's really late in the game. And an 11-2 team now entering this season at time of recording with the 7.5 win total. I don't know if that's come down at all. Vegas was already expecting a drop off even before the Retzlaff news came out. But now with this, I think it opens up a whole other portfolio of questions.
Agree.
Are you optimistic that they hit 7.5 wins?
No. Just because we've seen teams with, take your pick, a quality defense and a developed offensive line, and then there are just too many questions at quarterback, or there's a late change because of injury, or in this case, Retzlaff departing BYU. We've seen lows from BYU. We've seen highs from BYU. I think this is just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
This feels like 6-6, 7-5, 6-6, 6-6 probably vibes right now.
I'm with you.
What is it? McKay Hildenbrandt? Was that the name? Hilstead? McKay Hilstead?
It's McKay Hilstead. It's Trayson Bourget or freshman Bear Bachmeier. Yes, there is another.
No. It's Bear Bachmeier, Hank Bachmeier, Hank Bachmeier, Bear Bachmeier. There's another
Tiger
one.
Bachmeier, isn't there?
Tiger Bach. Is it? Oh my God. Bachheimer? What? How am I pronouncing this name? Bachmeier. Okay. Bear Bachmeier, Hank Bachmeier, Tiger Bachmeier. Well, I love it. Okay. I think it's going to be Hillstead. He threw a little bit for Utah State a couple years ago and transferred in. It's just, he's had time there to learn the system, to get in some practice reps. So perhaps maybe he's not quite Jake Retzlaff. Maybe he is better at certain things that Retzlaff wasn't good at, but sudden changes are not super encouraging to me.
No,
so
not at all. The good news is this. Here's the good news.
Yeah.
The good news is that the offensive line is going to be solid, and LJ Martin is back, their running back, which likely means he's going to be the focal point of the offense.
Mm-hmm.
The offense is going to look very different than last season, and they're going to need that defense while they figure things out. Beyond Chase Roberts, the receiving core is very thin. They lose 3 of last year's top 4 guys to transfers. So they're going to need to figure this out. It's going to be a work in progress. It was always going to be a work in progress, but that's even more the case now that Jake Retzlaff has departed.
Can I give you Dan's counterpoint to Dan's original point?
Are you arguing with yourself? I'd love to hear it. Please.
A little bit. The first 75%, 2/3 of their schedule kind of rules.
It's great. It's great.
So Portland State, Stanford, at ECU, which I think is going to be a little bit difficult. I don't know, traveling kind of across the country. At Colorado, we'll see what the Buffs are then. West Virginia's starting all over. Arizona's got a lot of questions, and it's Tucson, but it's into October. The Holy Wars at home.
Yep.
There's the meaty middle there. Utah, at Iowa State, a bye, at Texas Tech, TCU.
Yep.
That's really going to stress things. But are you going to be crazy surprised if they start the season 5-1, 6-0, and they're merely above average doing so? Maybe not. Super surprised.
It's going to be another one of these BYU seasons where, we know Chase Roberts, we know LJ Martin, we know they're going to get theirs. But otherwise, there are going to be a lot of contributors on this offense that nobody knows about. Nationally go completely under the radar. And they will find a way to play as a team and win 7 games.
I'm kind of with you. I think they're the rare team that is going to have more wins than the appropriate number that describes what kind of team they are. 7-8 wins is not out of the question, looking like a 6-6 team.
And we see that every year. We
do.
By the way, this defense was statistically the best in the Big 12 last year. Now, it lost a bunch of starters.
I had Utah slightly above them.
But it was up there, right?
Yes, for
sure.
It
was up there by whatever count. They were one of the best. They went hard after replacements. They did lose starters. I think the linebacking core is still loaded.
They gutted Colorado in the bowl game, did they not?
The linebacking core is loaded, so that's a good starting point. The secondary is concerning. I think there's a bit of a step back because there's so much new. And that's going to work against them here with an offense that's in flux. But I have come full circle, or I guess, to be fair, I have done a 180 on Kalani Sitake. At first, I did not trust that everybody else was trusting him. And I think given what he's done the last couple of years, he's proven to me that he's legit. So he's going to figure this out, and he's got a schedule here that sets him up well, at least to start things off.
Yeah, I know I sort of hedged here by saying they're a 6-6 team, but they might go 8-4.
Well, you can talk yourself into it. It's all right.
You can talk yourself into it. There are 9 teams on this schedule that don't obviously have a quarterback and or passing game to seriously challenge a struggling secondary.
Can I mark you down for 9-2 BYU or 9-3 BYU?
No, you may not.
Damn. Okay.
But I'm just in pure quantity, in a pure numbers game. Portland State, Stanford, ECU, Colorado, West Virginia, Arizona, Utah, Cincinnati, UCF are not obviously taking advantage of a green secondary.
ECU could. ECU's got a good passing attack this year and should have a good offense. There are questions that need to be answered about ECU, but
okay,
that's interesting.
And that's on the road.
Interesting to me. They're flying cross country to play against ECU.
Kattenhauser backed up by Mikey Wright.
Man, these guys.
I can't wait. You could tell me Cole Stout is on a roster somewhere. We're like, all right. I actually know that he's not because this is something separate. Little sidebar here. When we were doing the ACC preview, I like to remind myself of position coaches sometimes to be like, oh yeah, this guy's there and he's good with whoever, or coordinators, what have you. Dabo Swinney employs every single former Clemson player who wants a job. If you look at the analyst list for Clemson, it's like, oh, right, that guy. Ooh, yeah, that guy. Yes, of course, that guy. There, and Cole Stout is one of them that is employed by Clemson.
You know one that I saw?
Taj Boyd's on there. Who else?
Taylor Mays is the safeties coach for Washington this year. Do you remember Taylor Mays and all the hype around Taylor Mays?
Of course I do. He's from Seattle.
Yeah. When he was at USC, he was all the rage.
Yep. All right.
So we're going to, 7-5? We feel good, 7-5. We've talked ourselves into it.
I think in that zone. What's the number again?
You over under 7.5.
Okay. I don't hate taking the under because of the change. But again, I'm going to hedge and say there's 9 teams on there who might not even come close to dicing up this defense. So for your consideration on any podcast player, search Solid Verbal, find us and hit follow or subscribe. It's just that easy. Oh.
Let's get to Oklahoma State. Their over-under is 4.5 this year. 4.5. They went 0-9 in conference, 3-9 overall. It was one of the worst years in program history last year. And it came in a year where everybody, including you and I, had them as one of the teams to beat in the Big 12. I had them winning the damn conference. That didn't work. Oklahoma State was terrible. It wasn't quite as bad record-wise as what happened at Florida State, but in some ways, I actually think it was worse. So what happens? Well, it leads to a messy situation after the season. Basically, they forced Mike Gundy's hand. They made him take a pay cut if he wanted to stick around. He is back. It's going to be year 21. It has to be a make-or-break thing this year for Gundy. Because even though they signed him and even though they got past that little contract dispute, I think that clearly signals that there is impatience here. This is a proud program. The patience is running thin.
Yes.
Here is the blinking red light for me.
Okay.
Because again, we read a bunch of different previews putting these things together. There was a common theme.
UTEP transfers. Continue.
That's one of them. Almost every preview leaned on one of 2 reasons why they thought Oklahoma State could be better.
Okay.
The first is Mike Gundy's track record, which is not insignificant. Right. But there was a lot of, but he's had 19 winning seasons. Or, but look at some of the teams he's had. A lot of giving him the benefit of the doubt. And secondly, the logic was they have to be better because they can't get any worse.
At times it did seem that way, yeah.
If those are the 2 things that people are gravitating towards as they try to build a case for your team getting better, your team might not get better. Okay?
No.
I don't want to be mean here. And my guess is that nobody's trying to be mean about this. I'm not. But Tracy Chapman, Dan, give me one reason to believe. I need something other than like deductive reasoning as to why this thing is going to go better than last season.
Give me a reason to stay here, and here being Mike Gundy going to a bowl game. I
mean, Dan, Phil Steele in his preview, and I like what he does. Yeah. I mean, we can quibble over like the format of some of it and all that, but
no font is too small.
He said, no, there are
no acronym is too unclear. Yeah, Mike Gundy has 4 PFLTs by my count. Yeah, we all know what PFLTs are. Yeah, of course. Let's all move on because we all understand what he's talking about.
I've read this book for 15 years. I still don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
Phil Steele on Oklahoma State's offense. This is a real thing. This year, they lose 8 starters, including their star running back, Ollie Gordon, their top 3 quarterbacks, but Mike Gundy will have an improved offense in 2025. Thanks, Phil. Thanks. How? That's not even logic.
Yeah. No. By the way, if you pull back a little bit, but I think is relevant, we had conversations when all of the reorganizing of realignment was happening all over, and you're like, okay, so Texas and Oklahoma are gone, and it seems like there's a vacuum at the top, and there are some obvious candidates. This is like pre-West Coast teams, pre-Arizona schools, Utah, Colorado joining. And like, okay, who is going to be that alpha or those alphas in the Big 12? And it would be very difficult to point to a lot of teams that would have a similar track record to what Oklahoma State has done, in the 5-7 years leading up to all of the realignment, which is like drafted quarterbacks, Biletnikoff quality receivers, 2 like nationally impressive All-American caliber running backs in Ollie Gordon and Chuba Hubbard, Jim Knowles running one of the best 7 defenses in the country out of Stillwater. We're just like hiring and development and identifying, and just something happened in the early 2020s where Mike Gundy and college football and Oklahoma State just sort of deteriorated into, look, they went to the championship game 2 years ago. I think that was a blip more than anything, because the roster can't stay together. The assistant hiring seems to have just fallen off completely, and Oklahoma State and Gundy just sort of fumbled this.
Look, the conversation was not wrong when the conference changed. And there was an open question of, is Oklahoma State not doing better because Oklahoma remains in their way? And that was the question I think we posed to Scott Wright from the Oklahoman when we brought him on 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was exactly that. And that had been written about, that had been talked about for years. That's part of why we were so up on Oklahoma State last season. To go from preseason expectations to 3-9, 0-9 in conference, in a new conference, basically, that felt like it was theirs for the taking. Talk about like falling flat. That was horrible.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make this a dunk contest, but this is the reality for Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State fans know this.
Yeah.
So 41 new guys this year. I look at the roster. I don't know who any of them are.
It's too many new guys.
I don't know who any of these guys are.
Yeah.
And I study it as much as anybody. There is so much new. They're not exactly coming into the season with a set depth chart anywhere. So they're hoping it just meshes. If there are injuries, if they can't get the chemistry part sorted, it's going to be an issue against the schedule. And then that's not even mentioning the coordinators. They got Doug Meacham in there running the offense. Going to be up tempo. He's going more pass heavy.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot of shootouts. Or at least that's what they're banking on. If you're a believer in Zane Flores, the young quarterback, we should find out pretty quickly what he's got in the tank, which I actually think is a reason.
He came in from what, Nebraska?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually think that's a reason to watch Oklahoma State. There's been a lot of excitement around this guy. So I'd like to see him. Todd Grantham, though, calling the defense.
That's tough.
What are we doing here, man? Have we not seen this play before?
Say what you will. He has a vision, at least.
Oh, he does. He does. Talk about aggressive and attacking.
Every problem can be solved by a zero blitz.
Yeah, talk about aggressive and attacking.
Yeah.
This schedule is good in that they miss Arizona State and Utah. Bad in that they're at Oregon week 2. They've got Baylor. They're at Texas Tech, at Kansas, home against K-State, at UCF, which I don't think we can take as a guaranteed win. They close out with Iowa State at home. So there are no breaks in this thing. No breaks on this thing. UT Martin on August 28th is a break. But otherwise, maybe outside of Tulsa, I've got a question about all the other games in the schedule.
I agree.
How do you handicap this? I don't know. With all this new on a team that I don't think is used to having this much new, and a coach that I described as basically saying, Jesus, take the wheel on our part 1 episode, I think the best case scenario is 5-7. And that is the best case scenario. More likely, I am at 4-8.
Yeah. So 5-7 means what? 3 Big 12 wins.
Yes.
Because I don't think they're beating Oregon and Eugene. No. That's a take, right? That's tough for me to say. 4-8 feels about right.
If he goes 4-8 again, they got to move on, right?
Oh, I think they're moving on regardless of anything short of probably 9 wins.
9 wins? They're not getting 9 wins with this.
No, I'm saying short, like 9 wins keeps him his job, I guess. I don't know.
You might as well pack now.
How many chances do you get a guy to completely redo the roster every year in hopes that he strikes gold finally? And so even if he strikes gold once out of every 3-4 years. No, I'm saying short of 9 wins.
They're going to be short of 9 wins.
So if he goes 8-4, I think he's done.
They're not going to be anywhere close to 9 wins.
I know. But there has to be. Everybody's got a number. Tom Thibodeau just got fired for making the Eastern Conference Championship, Ty.
And Gundy's got way better hair than him.
Yeah, it's true. Thibodeau's funny, though, apparently.
Is he?
I don't know if Gundy's funny.
I think Gundy can be funny.
Okay.
Let's go to Houston.
Okay.
4-8 last season, over under 6-5 or 6.5, excuse me. Year one for Willie Fritz. Came over from Tulane. I think it went about as well as expected. There were some bright spots that you can point to. They knocked off both Utah and K-State on back-to-back weeks, which is nice. They almost beat Oklahoma in week 2. That was before we knew what Oklahoma was going to be. But still, that's a pretty big game. The other thing I'd mention here is that they had terrible turnover luck. Awful turnover luck.
Okay.
Moving forward now, the overwhelming feeling I get when I look at Houston is, they've got a plan. It feels calm. And I'd be surprised if they weren't markedly better this season. Just feels to me like Willie Fritz knows what he's doing and he's got a plan.
Well, you need quarterback health.
You do.
Which is not always a given. Connor Wigman. Yeah.
Let me start with the coordinators. Okay. I like the coordinators. Slade Nagel is the offensive guy. He was with Willie at Tulane. They also peeled away Austin Armstrong from Florida because of Florida's situation. He was kind of on the outs at Florida anyway. So on offense, I think that looks like a pretty balanced attack. On defense, the thing about Austin Armstrong that I really like in this situation, and not a lot of people know this, definitely runs more of an aggressive attacking defense.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah, definitely runs. It's aggressive. Actually, this was a top 50 defense a year ago under Shield Wood. Shield Wood, I talked on the last episode, went to Texas Tech. Yeah. So I like those guys. I think that's smart hires. On the transfer side, to your point about you need a quarterback, you need a healthy roster. 30 transfers, and it feels like the strategy here was just to get better where they needed it. Not unlike Texas Tech. I described the Texas Tech strategy as Willie Fritzy. We can describe the Houston strategy here as Texas Techy if we want. I don't care. It works both ways.
Okay.
People out there are going to hear this and say, well, duh. Duh, isn't that the point of it? I'm telling you, when you study 136 teams, you have drastically different portal strategies. Not all of them are this straightforward. They just aren't. So the biggest name here is Connor Wigman, former 5-star, comes over from Texas A&M. He's from Houston, which is pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they just added quality across the board. They have a couple different ways to use their running back room. They brought in a lot of experience on the offensive line. Again, just smart stuff. It makes sense. We should see a nice jump in offense, which would be nice. I'm all about that.
Agree.
So I feel good about that side of the ball. My red flag is this. Where's my Lamas thing?
I kind of have a problem with your hair. It's bothering me.
Of course.
I like the defensive front. I think the linebackers, I think the secondary are way more up in the air. And they've got a new scheme. They added new transfers. I could see this taking a while to click. Now, they have some time to work that out because September is gettable. The rest of the schedule is okay.
It's a lot of snip-snap. There's not a lot of stretchiness in here. There's not a lot of 3 straight toughies. I think they end with a couple of tough ones. It's TCU and Baylor.
That's right.
To finish things out.
TCU and Baylor after a bye to finish things out in late November. Yeah.
But that's preceded by West Virginia and UCF. They've got Arizona before Arizona State and Oklahoma State before Arizona. Oregon State, which I think will be improved, but not a killer, before Texas Tech. Colorado we'll see, but that's preceded by Rice, who's starting over, and Stephen F. Austin. The schedule's pretty good.
The schedule's not bad. I mean, no Kansas State, no Iowa State, no Utah. Right. And Vegas is right there at 6.5 with the over-under. So I would not bet on the over, but you can definitely look at this. And if you feel optimistic about the offense, and if you think that in time the defense will click under a good coordinator, or an aggressive coordinator, let's be honest, you could find a path to 7 wins here.
Oh, easily. 7. You could find a path to 7 or 8 wins with quarterback health, with transfers working out to a reasonable level. I think it's Stephon Johnson out wide. I think he's a speedy dude. Like, there are pieces here. It's just the churn at a place like Houston means you gotta nail the portal. I mean, gotta nail the portal everywhere, obviously. But the certain places are just gonna have more of a churn that they're just not going to be able to compete from a financial perspective. That, they're losing a coordinator, they're improving at quarterback, but it's somebody who's a little bit fragile in Connor Wigman, unfortunately. So you hope and cross your fingers for quarterback health there. And you hope that they're able to get off the field. Again, Willie Fritz, and we've talked about this before, year 2.
Yep. Year 2 coach is good.
Real solid track record.
Very good year 2 coach. And I think this is where context is really important for Houston. If this were a situation where you're looking at this defense, any other team, you're looking at the defense and you say, well, I like the front. The back seven is going to be a work in progress. It's going to take a little bit to kind of work through it. But look at the schedule. The schedule makes sense. They're going to have time. You would be okay to hand wave parts of that. The reason that you can't do it with Houston is because they're still sort of in this rebuilding mode. If the rest of the roster were more set, if there were more leadership, if this were a couple years down the path of Willie Fritz, and you had more of a bedrock to go on here with Houston, you'd say, okay, they can weather that. They'll be fine. They're going to get to a bowl, no big deal. Might not get the 9 wins, but they'll be fine. But given where Houston's at, given that this was a huge rebuild last season, given that he's still rebuilding and bringing in all these transfers, I think that weighs a little bit more heavily on the record. So I go 7 wins here. I like, or 6 wins here with a path to 7 or 8. I like where Houston's at. I like the job that Willie Fritz is doing. I think it's a slow build, and I would expect they'll give him time because they're going to see it too. There's going to be a jump this year that's going to show real progress and hopefully keep people, excited.
I hope so too. Yeah, because I think, as we've seen, the best of Houston is a team that was one weird play from beating Texas with Dana Holgorsen a couple years ago, right? Was a January-type bowl team with Tom Herman. We're talking about a different era of college football, of course. But just in terms of what that university can attract, especially if they're able to engage the money behind the scenes, and what the local recruiting is like, both from like guys coming back to East Texas and that want to stay local, you can accomplish a bunch at Houston. So, yeah, fingers crossed for them.
We've got one team left. It is the Colorado Buffaloes, Dan.
Yes.
So there's always a lot to talk about with a Deion Sanders coach team.
Yes.
Where do you want to start? I can give you the kind of lay of the land. The lay of the land is that Colorado was 9-4 team a year ago. They lost 2 games in conference. Their over-under this year is 6.5. It probably is no great surprise as to why that number has come down. But as a starting point, one of the 5 most interesting teams in the country, I think. Not for the same reasons as before.
Really? You think that right now?
Oh, I do.
They're one of the 5 most fascinating teams?
Fascinating, not best teams, but...
Oh, no, I know that.
But first year at Colorado without Shedeur and Travis Hunter. And
yeah,
I can't say it's going to be a new vibe in Boulder, but it kind of feels like it has to be a transition year. At a minimum, I think the offense is going to look different because you're missing your star quarterback who probably should have gotten drafted a lot higher. A once-in-a-generation player isn't going to be out wide. There are a couple major zags that are going to be coming, and I'm just curious to see how Deion responds to that with, again, another huge class of transfers.
Huge class of transfers. Last year they were led by their defense, almost quietly led by their defense. I thought it's Robert Livingston is the defensive coordinator. Hope I got that right. Yeah.
I keep getting him confused with Ron Livingston. I jotted Ron Livingston down on my note sheet.
Ron Livingston, of course, of Office Space fame, moved on to his second act of calling Pac-12 and Big 12 defenses. Led by their defense last year, an outstanding secondary, obviously headlined by the Heisman Trophy winner, an outstanding receiving core last year, also headlined by the Heisman winner, both completely different this year.
Yeah.
The offensive line is being rebuilt through the portal. Kind of everything's being rebuilt through the portal. They don't run the ball, so they obviously don't run the ball well. It's Caden Salter via Liberty or a freshman, Juju
Lewis, yeah.
Lewis, excuse me. Julian Lewis from, I want to say, Carrollton, Georgia. Yep. A blue chip quarterback coming in competing for the job. I think we assume it's going to be Caden Salter, who has been reasonably successful in a smaller conference for a smaller school. There are just too many variables on the field right now coupled with the fact that something just strikes me as off behind the scenes at Colorado. And I don't blame Deion's health for anything. He lived in Texas the past few months, rehabilitating an injury. I hope he's healthy. I hope it works out. That's a different thing in this sport, that a coach is not even living in the town of the school while rehabilitating very serious health issues. And that his friends have had to put out statements like, just saw him, he's doing great, can't wait to get back out there. And he like went to Big 12 media days and was like, I'm doing great, nothing to worry about, guys. I'm just like, you didn't even live in Colorado for the majority of the offseason?
Yeah.
That's worrisome to me. I hope from a human standpoint, he's doing all right. I hope he's healed. I hope he's doing all right. But if we're talking about like the vibes within a program, that's just unique. That is different. And so maybe we're full speed ahead. Maybe everything's good to go. Maybe he's done an outstanding job via Zoom, however you do things. But it's hard to feel great about where this program is, weirdly enough, on offense more than defense. Because I don't love redoing an offensive line every year and having it be the weakness that it was, especially a couple of years ago. I just don't like that sort of annual turnover. Jordan Seaton's back, I think, at left tackle, the blue chip left tackle, who started as a freshman last year. I think did a good job. And the line definitely improved some. But I don't know. They were experienced with some of their guys, at receiver and on defense last year. The 2 years and starting over thing without one of the best, I think they retired Shedeur Sanders' number, yes? And the singularly most talented player in program history, if not college football history.
He's incredible, Travis Hunter. He was ridiculous.
Yeah. So when one single person can account for that much production for your team as a whole and he's gone, I don't know, 5-7, 6-6.
I've got him down.
I think anything is on the table.
I've got him down as an entertaining 5-7.
Okay.
Again, the over-under is 6.5. So let me backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
I don't think it's fully accurate to say, it's a matter of opinion. I would not say they were led by defense last year.
Their defense was better than their offense.
Their defense was better than it had been, but the offense was like a top 20 unit in the country.
I have them down 40th on offense in points per drive, 34th in defense.
Okay. Whatever metric we want to use.
Yes.
Clearly, Shedeur Sanders and what he did offensively, mostly in tandem with Travis Hunter, that is gone. And they are going to be starting over on some level on offense. They will be led more so by defense this year. The job that Robert, don't call me Ron Livingston, did was really impressive. Per your analytics, Colorado improved by 1 point per drive on defense. Now, that doesn't sound like much. I get it. But once you realize that teams averaged about, 12 drives a game last season against Colorado, do the math. They got way better. Way better. Overall, 113th in defensive SP plus in 2023. They improved to 41st last season, which is a jump of 72 spots. It's a lot. All right. So I like the fact that they got better there. Definitely a talking point, regardless of who led whom. I think that was a big jump forward. You could say this year there are as many as 8 starters back on defense when you factor in the transfers. Jaheim Otis is the big hog molly along the line to pay attention to. Big number 90.
Yep.
6'5", 325. I don't know how you get that big. What a monster. He's going to step into a leading role right away. Even in the secondary, the impulse, I think, is to think that they're going to take a big step back because they lose Travis Hunter. I do think they'll take a step back. But they still have guys like DJ McKinney, who played really well last season and wasn't in the limelight, but is still there, should be productive. They brought in 6 transfers, some of whom were also starters elsewhere. So this is not to say that there aren't holes to fill on that defense, but from what I'm seeing, I think they'll be fine. And I think if that's the case, it'd be a cool story. So defensively, they're in a good spot. They will be, for certain, led by defense this year. The situation on offense, though, is where it gets a little bit weird. I think, again, it will be entertaining and fun to chart. But Caden Salter from Liberty, the dual threat guy, was super productive. Did a lot of RPO stuff in his career. Him or Juju Lewis, true freshman, like you said, from Georgia, is not going to be 18 until September 21st.
Damn.
How old are we?
How many years older than 17 are you?
Where's my button?
25?
Not talking about this.
Okay.
The comp I saw for Juju was Bryce Young, which would be pretty awesome for Colorado.
Yeah. He's young. Literally Bryce Young. Yeah.
I don't know if the guy who wins the job in week 1 is going to end up being the starter the full way through, but they've got 2 guys that they're competing for the job, and I think that'll be interesting. I don't know what the offense is going to look like. There's like no way it can be so pass heavy, given that they're going to have a whole new cast of characters. I just think they're going to have to bring things more into balance.
Sure.
We'll see if Pat Shurmur can get the ground game going. It's not something that worked at all last season.
They've been the worst running team for 2 years running. Yeah.
So, there are real questions about this offense, which is definitely different from what we have seen the last 2 years. When I saw this schedule, I LOL'd.
LOL.
Uh-oh.
The good news is that they've got Delaware and Wyoming. The bad news, BYU followed by a road spot at TCU before coming home to play Iowa State. They're at Utah, at West Virginia. They close out the year with back-to-back games against Arizona State and on the road against Kansas State. It's not quite the toughest schedule in the Big 12, but it's up there. And
who do they open with?
They also open with Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
What is this?
Georgia Tech.
Who did this to them?
Georgia's program of the future.
Who did this to them?
I don't know, man. It'll be entertaining. You're right. It will be entertaining. And here's the actual concern, too, about the offense. I think we think Caden Salter's pretty good, but is he drag this entire offense to 31 points a week good with these receivers that were rotation guys last year, but they weren't providing huge pop for this team last year, and no running game, and a rebuilt offensive line? I just don't think he can Zerbiak this thing to 31.
How long is it going to take this offense to gel? And realistically, how much can that defense, which I think will be better, how much can that defense shut down this schedule? That's the big thing for me, Yeah, because
I agree.
I just don't know what.
You're just a hater, Ty. You're just a Colorado hater.
I'm going to look at the comments and see it.
That's fine.
And I know where they're going to come from, too. But listen, I'm rooting like hell for Colorado. I am on record.
Don't try to appease.
No. Hold on. Shut up. People can go back and listen to me 2 years ago when Deion took this job, when he brought in 52 transfers. I was on the record saying, well, I get why it's different. I understand completely why people would look at this and say he's not recruiting. This is going to be a flash in the pan. It's never going to work, but let's see. And if it does work, then maybe that will become like a new model here. I'm hitting my microphone now. I'm crazy. Maybe that'll become a new model in college football. And guess what? He won 9 games last year, and it is the model in college football. Everybody's doing it now. Some out of necessity because they don't have a choice.
Right.
But there are plenty of big schools that have integrated the portal much more into their recruiting regimen than they did a couple years ago.
You're not wrong.
So say whatever we want about Deion and the strategy, and yes, it's volatile, and he's not for everybody, but
and he's just a much bigger face doing it than everybody else.
There's no personality bigger than him. Certainly not on the coaching side.
Right.
But what he has done in 2 short years has definitely been a blueprint that other schools have followed. And I don't know if they'll have success with it this year. They're trying it again. But I was up on that. I was at least willing to give it time. We saw the fruits of that last season. But now it's a new challenge. When you lose 2 stars in Shedeur and Travis Hunter, that has to be the first question that everybody asks, and how they make up for that production remains to be seen. But 5-7 for me, a very entertaining 5-7. Happy to be proven wrong. I am rooting for Colorado because I think it's a cool story, but definitely a new chapter here.
I'm rooting for Colorado just because I enjoy Ralphie more than any other live mascot in the sport.
A female.
Oh, yeah.
Ralphie's a female.
Long a gal. Okay.
So that does it for the Big 12. All 16
Yes.
teams now in the bag. Please reach out, solidverbal@gmail.com with any thoughts. If you can comment on whatever podcast platform or YouTube that you're consuming the content, please weigh in. Let us know your thoughts.
Are they playing any of the games where Brett Yormark said that they were going to explore the possibility of playing in like Sao Paulo? Are they doing any of that
I
yet?
don't think so. Not yet.
No games, no neutral site games in Guatemala,
No.
Mexico City,
No.
Osaka. Nothing yet.
No.
Okay,
Nothing yet.
someday.
Someday, I hope so.
Yeah,
They're already playing games in
will.
Ireland. The week 0 game in
Buddy.
Ireland is not.
that counts.
That's
that counts.
That's not
That's
a bad
Big 12
idea.
footprint.
It's been fun.
Dublin's great.
Yeah.
It's not terrible to get to, right? It's western most-ish. I don't know if Dublin's. It's on the very western edge of Europe, so the flights aren't terrible. And Bambino Pizza. Terrific in Dublin. Really, 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 really good pizza in Dublin against all
Great.
odds. Great food town. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Again, leave a star rating, leave a review. That stuff helps. Verballers.com is where you can go for the Patreon if you want to further support what Dan and I are up to here. Hit follow, hit subscribe, if nothing more, so that you don't miss any of our episodes. Our next episode is going to be part 1 of the Big Ten. The Big Ten is 18 friggin' teams, okay? This was the case last year. I just like to remind people when we do these previews, those are going to be longer episodes. There's just no way around it.
Do you want to get one team out of the way right now?
Purdue?
Should we just do our Washington preview on this episode?
I'm ready with Washington.
Are you
I am ready
really?
with Washington, yeah.
Was it Damon Williams?
Damon Williams is the truth.
Denzel Boston?
Yeah. Damon Williams is the truth. A smaller dude.
He needs an offensive
smaller
line.
dude. But he is elusive. He's got track speed. Doesn't rely on it. Wants to stay in the pocket. Wants to complete passes.
Of course.
I think he's a crazy, exciting prospect. I think Washington is like maybe one of my sleeper teams this year in the Big Ten.
Okay. Washington preview is out of the way for 2025. Anybody else you want to knock out right now? Right now, you have the chance. Purdue's going to be bad. Purdue, done.
Purdue's going to be very bad. Yeah.
All right. We don't have to do
Purdue
Purdue.
has 54
so that's we're down to
transfers.
16
Do you know
teams.
that?
How many?
54.
That's so good. Almost at 11 starting basketball teams.
54 transfers this year for Purdue.
Any thought? God. Indiana. Mendoza
I have not
thoughts.
done Indiana yet. I didn't go through Indiana.
Okay.
I got about
Maryland?
9 teams left before we record our next episode in 4
Do
days.
you know Maryland's starting quarterback for 2025?
I want it to be Malik Williams.
Okay.
I want it to be Malik Williams.
There's a quarterback battle post Billy Edwards.
Yeah. The guy I want it to be is Malik Williams because
I hope you want it to be Malik Washington because that appears to be the correct
Malik
name.
Washington.
It's okay. This is not our Big Ten
I
episode.
get half credit.
You're
I
allowed
don't have my notes
that.
in front of me.
That's okay.
Yeah. Pep Hamilton
All
is
right.
with Maryland now. Do you know that? Coming back.
Was he what, UFL? He was in one of the alt spring leagues for a minute.
He's been everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get there.
Malik Washington. Thank you.
Yes. It was Justin Martin from UCLA also competing for that job.
On that note, before we embarrass
Yes.
ourselves any further, for that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thank you so much for downloading, for listening, for supporting what we do. Talk to y'all soon. Let's talk some Big Ten next time around. Stay solid.
Peace.